We're staying with Dell. The company has been losing market share as well to HEWLETT-PACKARD. I'm joined now by Paul Meeks. He's a principal at Winsor Asset Management. Paul, good to talk with you as always. And just listening from what Adam is saying, I mean, is that it? Is that, buy Dell now and wait for the growth in 2010, or do you differ?
Well, since the stock has already doubled from its bottom, I'm a little bit cautious about what they're going to say on the call. I think there's a lot more issues to resolve in addition to what Adam's talking about. You have the issue with steady losses in market share to HEWLETT-PACKARD. This is a company that, at least in the past, is focused on two, at least right now, troubled areas, domestic and corporate. And also, they'll probably make an announcement before too long on what they're going to do with the Google Android operating system for cell phones. It looks like they're going to announce their own smartphone.
I was just going to say, you mean launching a smartphone here in the U.S.? I think they have one in Latin America or something, right?
That's right. Yeah, they'll probably announce one shortly with AT&T being the carrier. But there's a lot of issues here. Since Michael Dell has come back to the CEO role, we are still in the midst of a restructuring or cost cutting. I'm very curious to see if we have more to go. Also, Dell typically on these conference calls does a pretty good job of calibrating for us economic growth and also IT spending. So it'll be interesting to see what they say on a macroeconomic basis. Let
me just back up with you, Paul, because I think the issue that you point out, which is very important, is what are they going to do about HP gaining market share from them? And Michael Dell, as I recall, has the strategy is not so much market share for him, but profit. But yet he's lost out to HP and now to Acer in Taiwan. So how does he reverse that?
Well, one of the things that Dell needs to do, like all of the major tech companies need to do, is they need to become one-stop shops. Now, in the past, Dell obviously has been focused on hardware, and you see what IBM and HP have successfully done. They've gone from hardware to software to services because the major enterprise or corporate customers are demanding that you be all those things. So I think going forward, Dell not only has to regain some market share lost in hardware to HEWLETT-PACKARD and others, but also build a presence like they have done with the Perot acquisition in services.
Yeah, and what do you make of that Perot acquisition?
I think it was important that they did something, but my analysis is that they paid way too much. And I don't know if Perot was the right target, given the fact that Perot is very focused on federal government business and healthcare business. Now, obviously, with the changes in healthcare legislation in this country, that's not a bad place to be, but I just don't think Perot had a broad enough addressed industry base.
Okay, well then, given that, Paul, and the time that we have, is there any moment, is there any time that you think Dell is going to be a good buy?
Well, I want to see what happens today. The stock is also just a bit above its 50-day moving average, which is about $15.50. I'd like to see that stabilize, but I probably wouldn't be interested in buying this stock until it was in the very low teens. And even at its relatively elevated price, I'd probably still buy HEWLETT-PACKARD in this space over Dell.
Okay, Paul, good to talk with you as always.